today I'm going to be talking about using translations. This is the second day. So we've seen how to use translations, and now we have a rule. It says use the translation. And this rule means if we start with the point xy, we're now going to add 3 to all the x's and subtract 1 from all the y's. Well, let's talk about the difference between an image and a pre-image. The pre-image is what we start with, and the image is what we end up with. So we start with pre-image and we end up with image. So for number 1, it says, what is the image of A, -1, 2? So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this rule to that point. So the image is going to be A prime, and we have a -1 and 2. And now we're going to apply that rule. So we're going to add 3 to the x and subtract 1 from the y. So what we get is 2, 1 for the image of that point. So let's do that same thing to number 2. So it says, what is the image of B, -1, 5? So we now have B prime. We do -1 plus 3, and then 5 minus 1. And we get for the image of B is 2, 4. Now the next one is a little different because it says, what is the pre-image of C prime 7, 5? So pre-image, what we're going to do is we're going from the image and we're going backwards. So we're going to do the opposite to find the pre-image. So instead of adding 3, we're going to subtract 3, and instead of subtracting 1, we're going to add 1. So we're going to say we have C, the pre-image, and we're going to subtract 3 from the x and add 1 to the y. So what we get for the pre-image is 4, 6. All right, and the very last one, we do the same thing. So for D, we're going to do 7 minus 3 and 1 plus 1. So we get 4, 2 for that one. All right, so now we're going to apply this to graphing. It says graph triangle RST with vertices 2, 2, 5, 2, and 3, 5, and its image after the translation of x plus 1 and y plus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to write down the original triangle, which is RST. So we have R, 2, 2, S, 5, 2, and T, 3, 5. And we're going to apply this rule to our image. So we're going to add 1 to all the x's and add 2 to all the y's. So if we start with R, 2 plus 1 is 3, and 2 plus 2 is 4. For S, 5 plus 1 is 6, and 2 plus 2 is 4. And the very last one, 3 plus 1 is 4, and 5 plus 2 is 7. And now we're going to graph our pre-image and our image. Our pre-image is in blue, so do 2, 2 for R, 5, 2 for S, and 3, 5 for T. And then we connect those dots because it is a triangle. Now let's draw our image, which is 3, 4. And it will overlap, and that's okay. 6, 4 for S. And then 4, 7 for T. And now we have our new image where we added 1 to the x's and added 2 to the y's, and that is our translation graphed. So let's do another example. We have a graph RST with vertices 2, 2, 5, 2, 3, 5, and its image after the translation of x minus 1 and y plus 3. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to write down our pre-image, RST. R is 2, 2. S is 5, 2. And T is 3, 5. And then we're going to apply that rule to our image. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4, and 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 minus 1 is 2, and 5 plus 3 is 8. And now we're going to graph. Pre-image is in blue. 5, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we have our pre-image again. Connect those dots, and now we have our image. 1, 5, 4, 5, and then 2, 8. And now we have our image, where we subtracted 1 to x and added 3 to y, and that's our translation graphed. All right, now we have something different here. It says graph the triangle XYZ with the vertices 2, 4, 6, 0, 7, 2, and its image after the composition. So we now have something called the composition. And if we look below, it's called a composition because we're going to apply 2 translations to this image. So whenever we have more than one translation, it is called a composition. So we're going to do, it's very similar to what we're going to be doing, but we have to do this in steps, in stages. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down the pre-image, XYZ. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the first translation. And the first translation tells us to subtract 6 to every x and then just leave the y alone. We're not going to do anything to the y, we're just going to write it down. So the first translation is we're going to subtract 6 to every single x. So 2 minus 6 is a negative 4, and then we keep the y, 4. 6 minus 6 is 0, and we keep the y. And 7 minus 6 is 1, and we keep the y. Then what we're going to do is we're going to apply that second translation to the green. So now we're starting with the green, and from the green points, we're going to add 2 to x, add 7 to y. So negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2, and 4 plus 7 is 11. 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 7 is 7. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 2 plus 7 is 9. And now all we have to graph is the blue and the red. If you'd like to graph the green to see the steps, you may. But let's just graph that blue, which is 2, 4, which is x, 6, 0, which is a y, and 7, 2, which is our z. So that's our pre-image. And then let's just draw our image, graph our image, which is at negative 2, 11. That's our x. Our y is at 2, 7. That's our y. And then our z is at 3, 9. That's our z. Okay. And that is our image. So this is our composition. We've done both translations for this, and we can see that it's moved twice. So let's see another example of that one. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph this composition, and we're going to do it in our stages. So let's start with our pre-image, x, y, z. X is 2, 4. Y is 6, 0. And z is 7, 2. And we're going to apply the first translation, which is subtracting 2 to the x's and adding 1 to the y's. So 2 minus 2 is 0, and 4 plus 1 is 5. 6 minus 2 is 4, and 0 plus 1 is 1. 7 minus 2 is 5, and 2 plus 1 is 3. Now we're going to apply the second translation to our green points. And we will get our image. And our second translation is having us add 3 to the x's and subtract 5 to the y's. So 0 plus 3 is 3, and 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 plus 3 is 7, 1 minus 5 is a negative 4. 5 plus 3 is 8, and 3 minus 5 is a negative 2. Okay, so now we're going to graph the pre-image and the image. That's X, that's Y, and that's Z. So there's our pre-image, and then our image. That's our X, our Y, and our Z. And we have graphed our composition, and we can see that we've translated this twice.